All right, so in this first video, we're going to get ourselves set up for making a parametric picture frame. And I'll explain what that is in a minute. To begin with, we're going to make sure we're in the solid modeling part of Fusion 360. And I've got a new file here. So the first thing I'm going to do right away is I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call it picture frame. And now I want to turn on a few things. I want to have my origin turned on because I'm going to be doing some sketching. And I'm also going to go down, I want to turn on the grid in the background. So that's down here in my grid and snap settings, and I can just turn on my layout grid. So now I've got lots of good reference materials. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a picture frame that changes size depending on what size picture you want to put in it. And that's where the parameters come in. So we're not going to actually type any measurements. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Modify, Change Parameters, and so all the measurements are going to be added as parameters, and we're going to make it so that they all reference each other. So we're going to start by putting in the picture length. Now, the one thing about parameter names is you can't put a space. So what I do is I just use a capital letter for the second word, and we're going to make that 150 millimeters. So this is what we're going to change if we get a different sized picture. And then we're going to add another parameter, and we're going to call it picture width, and let's make that 100 millimeters. So I think that's enough to get us started. We can add more parameters later. So now I'm going to draw my picture, and I think what I want to do is I want to have my picture frame standing up like it will actually look. So I'm going to use the vertical XZ plane to click on that. And now I also want to make sure that I anchor my model to the origin here. So I'm going to use a center rectangle. If it doesn't show up there, you go rectangle, center rectangle. And I'm going to draw that out. Now here's what's cool about parameters. So this on the right hand side here, the measurement that's highlighted, that is going to be my picture width. I might have called it height, but I called it width. So if I just type P, my parameters just come up like that. So I'm just going to click picture width. And now I'm going to hit the tab key, so I go back down to the length. I'm going to hit P again, and I'm going to click picture length. And so now, if I hit enter, I have got a constrained. You can tell it's constrained because all of the lines are black. And these are the constraints here. So this tells me these are right angles, and this tells me these are all constrained. So I've got my constrained picture. Now, my picture is not actually going to be part of my model. So what I want to do is, but I want to use it to help guide everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a box over it, select everything, and I'm going to make it a construction line. So that means I can still use it for reference, but it's not actually going to be part of my model, okay? All right, so now what we want to do is we want to, I'm just going to go back, here's the finished model over here. So what we want to do now is we want to make the frame that goes around the picture, okay? So we're going to use this tool a lot, the offset tool. Now, so I'm going to click on all four sides of my reference image. And with the offset tool, what I quite like to do is drag it out a little bit, the direction I want to offset it, if it'll let me. Don't think it'll let me this time. So what I want to do is I want to drag it out this way. Now I don't want to type in a measurement, so I'm going to go Modify, Change Parameters. I'm going to add another one. So what we're going to call this is we're going to call this frame width. Okay, so this way, and let's say, maybe, I don't know, let's make it 20 millimeters, 2 centimeters. And we're going to go OK. So now you'll see here that I should have done that before I did this. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to undo that. I think my parameters should still be there. If I do undo, let's go and check. Nope, I undid my parameter as well. So we'll do that again. Frame width. Oh, you see it went red. That's because I put a space. And we will say it's 20 millimeters. We'll go OK. So now we're going to go get our offset tool again. And we will, sometimes it will, you're able to select all four at once. I think then when you do that, it'll let you actually drag the arrows. Type frame, F for frame, there's my frame width. And we hit enter. And so now I've got the outside of my frame. So just to show you how easy this is, if I go into modify, change parameters, let's say I want it to be a 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter picture. I can resize it, and because the outer frame is offset from this, everything resizes the same. So we're going to go back to our parameters, and we're going to make that 150. Now, what I might do while we're at it is add a few more parameters. So if you look over here, so what we're going to need to do also is we need to have a space between the inner frame and outer frame. This is where we can add lots of artwork and personalize your frame, so it won't look as boring as this. And the outer frame, we also want to be able to change the width of that, although we could just make it the same. Let's just make it the same as that. So what I might do is go back here and add one last parameter. I'm going to call it, I'll call it the art space. That's where we can get more creative with this project. I want it to be maybe twice as wide as the frame, so I'll make it 40, and we're going to go okay. Okay. So we also, one other thing we need to do is if we were to put the picture in this frame right now, it would just fall out. So we actually need our frame to overlap a little bit and kind of be on the inside here. So let's go and add one more parameter, and we're going to call it picture overlap, and I'm going to say I want it to be 2 millimeters. Okay, and all of these we can change later. So I'm going to go get my offset tool again. And I'm thinking, oh, it'll let me drag it this time. So if I can, I like to drag it, partially because it tells me I can see when I drag it that it actually, there's a, let's open this up a little bit so you can see it. You can see there's a minus sign in front of the numbers. So that tells me that it's supposed to be a minus. So I'm going to go minus frame. Nope. What did I call it? It was picture overlap. There we go. And I'm going to go okay. And so now we've got the inner and outer. And now this over here, it's interesting too. It's worth pointing out that my construction geometries can be turned off. So if I want to see what it looks like without the picture, that's what it'll look like. Okay, so we're going to try and get as much information into this sketch as possible before we extrude it. So I'm going to go and get my offset tool again. Now this is interesting. You can't offset from an offset. So I got to go back to my picture, click on my construction lines. So now what we want to do is we want to offset it so that we've got a art space. So I could go and type in art space, but you'll notice that that is not 40, that's only 20. That's because it actually is taking the measurement from down here. So here's a cool thing about parameters. I can go in here and I can type in frame width, and then I can go plus art space, and it will add the two together to give me that distance there, right? So it's the frame width, the 20 plus the 40. And now I need to do the outer frame as well. So I'm going to go and get my offset tool. I'm going to click on all of these. And so let's see if we drag this out. Will it let me drag it out? I don't think it will. Yes, it will. Okay. So that's where I want it. Let's see what happens. So let's go art space plus frame width. Now that doesn't actually get me, right? I actually need to go, I need 2 frame widths. So you can actually go frame width times 2, and it'll multiply the two frame widths, and now I've kind of got all of the measurements of my frame. So I'm going to stop this recording here, and I will continue in the next recording.